I'm gonna go ahead and show you. We're right here at the entrance of Mound Cemetery. You can see it right here.
Hello.
This is my friend Bowe-N-Arrow. So, and we're gonna show you some names here.
Yeah, in Mound Cemetery, there are people buried from every single war that America's ever fought in, and a lot of real important names here. You have Samuel Parsons. We have Parsons, West Virginia, not too far from here. We have General Rufus Putnam, who led the Ohio company from Massachusetts, and who George Washington gave a sword to. That I made videos about that, and he's related to my my friend Hugh Squire. And here's Benjamin Tupper, who's another Revolutionary War veteran general up here. We'll see his grave. Whipple, there's a town named for him nearby. And let's see, you have the Lincoln family. Now they say they're not related to Abraham Lincoln, but he's one of the original 48 or 47 that came here, I mean. Jabez True, the first physician. Ichabod Nye came with Putnam and lived in the Campus Martius house that he sold him. Let's see if there's some more over here. All these ones aren't names, that's just a placard.
It just talks about who that's from.
Right. The Daughters of the American Revolution are the same people that helped fight to preserve the Campus Martius Museum.
Okay, so we're entering the gate right now. This is the beginning of the cemetery here at Mound Cemetery.
These are the more modern wars here. But you have all the way back to every single war America's fought here. Look at the names. There's a Gardner. Huh.
Gardner, yeah, what do you know? Terry Gardner.
Somehow I overlooked that.
Huh, first one you get to. Gardner is one of the names that's synonymous with his friend Hugh Squire. There'll be more about that later in another video, or you can check out his channel. We'll put a link to the description of some of his videos, or his channel, down in the description box for you. But you can see right away, there's an obelisk right here. Looks like Bracken is the name.
Now there's Fuller right there, you know.
Fuller.
How we talk about Fuller. There's a lot of Fullers in here.
Yeah.
And Rufus Putnam, his father, was married to Fuller.
And that's the name that you saw on the plaque as we entered there.
Right, that's why when you see George Washington handed his sword over to Hugh Squire's family, that's what we're talking about. So it's a very important video.
Show you kind of the lay of the land here as we enter farther into the cemetery here. And a lot of ornate stuff. Like he said, there's people from every single war, and the modern wars are kind of up front there. And
there's Baldwin, and notice the date, September 11.
Which one? Where's Baldwin?
Right there.
I really wish I would have put my contacts in here.
Right here.
Oh, well, there's another one right here too.
Yes.
Oh, September 11th. Okay, so we'll get into that later. He was just going over it with me. A lot of significance of September 11th. And as we tour these mounds out here, you're gonna see more. He'll explain more later, but there's another.
We're more here to talk about the mound today, but yeah, we'll get into Hugh's story one time up here too, if you like.
So you got Edwin, Cynthia, James Baldwin, all died 1851.
Right.
But yeah, that one just happened to be on September 11th. He just happened to notice that. So.
Well, I've noticed it before, but Baldwin. Remember, Baldwin's related to Hugh because his sister married Baldwin, and. Let's see if I can get it straight here. He was murdered, right? And the guy who murdered him called Hugh and told him he was going to murder him. And he did. And then he's called Hugh and said, well, now you're next. So he drives all the way from Michigan out thousands of miles to where Hugh lives. And then kills a cat and smears his blood all over his house, okay? But he knows, you know, he was always armed, so he's gonna not have to, not get to just jump in there, right? So anyway, right after that, you had, David Halls on the set of Rust, okay, who handed a loaded gun to Baldwin, and discharged and killed Helena Hutchins, H.H. like Hugh. Well, the guy who did the killing of Baldwin, his brother-in-law, was calling himself Rusty Killer. And so And Hall was Hugh's rapist at 4 years old. So now you have the connection between the rapist and the set of rust and the killer. And he was calling and saying that he's going to kill him, calling himself Rusty Killing, and the next thing you know, he's handing a gun to Halls on the set of Rust. Okay? And Halls hands the gun to Baldwin, and then it kills H.H. Selena Hutchins like Hugh.
So Alec Baldwin actually didn't murder.
Baldwin is 100% innocent. I have called his lawyers and told him that.
Yeah. And a lot of people don't understand that, and that's a big thing going around right now is everybody thinks, I thought he was guilty. I thought he was for sure guilty. But after hearing this story now, and, you know, now you're going to know more about Hugh Squire here, and more I hang out with Bowe-N-Arrow here, and that's our connection here is with Hugh Squire. You'll find out more about that story. We're also getting into these mounds up here, and there's a lot of interesting stuff he was telling me about the geometric measurements on all these mounds.
Yeah, we'll get into that. Now, Marietta is named after the Queen of France, Marie Antoinette. And here is another woman who was named after Marie Antoinette as well.
Yeah, it's a combination of the names Mary and Antoinette, right? Basically,
yeah, Marietta, right.
It's the beginning and the ending of the names. There you go.
Right. And she appears to have gifted the bells over at Campus Martius, supposedly, according to some people.
There's so much history in the city of Marietta. If you ever happen to be passing through this city, this is a major destination. You really must check these serpent mounds out because there's more than meets the eye here. And Bowe-N-Arrow previously did a video where he got strings out and measured the exact measurements. And they cut the tops off the hills back in, I think he said 1832 or something like that. We're going to get into that as we get up closer here. But you can see right now he's going to talk about this dry moat that's around here.
Right. It doesn't hold water. Okay, so this moat has an actual purpose. Now, and I figured it did, okay, but I had to really think about it. So I came up here, come down here, you can walk all over here, you just can't walk on the mound. $50 fine if you walk on the mound itself except on the steps.
Oh, wow.
All right, so I was sitting on top of there, I went up see this big circle goes all the way around. I said, I know this has some sort of geometric meaning, but I didn't know why. I sat up there, I looked at it, and I thought about it for a while. If you look at the mound, in fact, I'll tell you what, let's go back over here and look at this sign real good. Because the sign will show you an overhead view. This is what I draw on my chalkboard. Okay, so here's the moat, right? These two lines would represent this moat right here. All right, so if you're looking overhead, this is the mound. Now, I'm sitting up here and I'm going, okay, there's geometry here. And then it occurred to me, okay, I get strings and some pegs and it's simple geometry. I put the pegs here, 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 and here. And if these are what I think they are, then we'll be able to find the diameter of the mound. And sure enough, the strings come down, they touch just perfectly along the edges. Okay. And that gives me, and then all you have to do is just measure the length of your string, and that gives you the diameter of the mound. Exactly like I thought. Put that together with the 36 feet here and the 4 feet width of the mound, and you have 216 feet across. That 216 is very, very important because it's in earthworks and temples and pyramids and things all over the world. From China to Mexico. It's the same geometry, half of which would be 108, like the radius of the moon, 1080. And if you look up sacred geometry in the 108 or Jainism 108 or something like that, they really love that number 108. They build statues and they build it in feet. To this day in India, statues built 108 feet tall. So you know this is ancient. Our system of feet and inches has been used for thousands and thousands of years, or they may have even called it something different, but it's proportionate to what we have today. So then this little area is 36 feet, and it's about 36 feet tall. So this 36 feet is the triangular number of 666, which is 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4, all the way to 36 equals 666. So you got two ways of verifying this measurement. You got 36 feet here, 36 feet up, tall. And then if you walk around this mound right here, you get right here in the bottom of it, right about here, right along the edge. And I did this with my little wheel that you measure with. walk all the way around it, and you get right exactly back to where you were, is 666 feet, exactly.
Wow.
It was really interesting because there were some visitors from Canada coming up to look at the mound right as I was finishing up. And I said, hey, would you look at that measurement for me and tell me what it says? He goes, 666. I said, exactly. Isn't that amazing?
Wow.
You know, so just amazing. And then you got the 36 twice in these measurements. So fascinating how they did this.
I flipped my camera around. I apologize if I wasn't right on target there. I got it figured out now and I flipped it around. But yeah, here's another look at the mound. And you just see how massive this serpent mound is. I mean, it's, I mentioned, he talked about...
We can go up there too.
Yeah, he measured them with strings. And like I said, they cut that top off. And you said that was probably about 1832, you thought?
Yeah, I think a local book, I want to say it was in Haunted Marietta, a book that you can find in local places all around here. I'm pretty sure that was the book that told me that they cut it off in 1830. And somebody did actually try to dig into it, and that was a book about haunted stuff or whatever. So they said the little girls that were here one night and they saw a monster or something, you know?
Oh, wow.
Something like that.
I love the haunted
Yeah.
ghost tours and all that stuff around this area.
Yeah.
We get it in Parkersburg. There's a branch here in Marietta, and, you know, a lot of the same people are kind of involved in all that. We also have been going to the Reiki class. You went out there 1 week, but I've been going consistently. Bring back Shane, he went out there a few weeks as well. Reiki is a very interesting topic for you guys who have been following the channel. It's energy healing. But to stay on topic here, back to Marietta Mound Cemetery, you can kind of see all the houses around here. They all look about the same, different colors, but they're all two-story houses lined up right next to each other, all around the perimeter of this.
There used to be a huge square 54-acre mound right there.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it was the walls of it. It was like not a mound itself, but it was an enclosure.
You can see it's raised ground out there. I do see that. Right up here is that hill, what's now just a grassy knoll, basically.
And right here is General Tupper from the Revolution. Go look what that says. Commodore Tupper, rather. I'm sorry. You can see it on this side a lot better. Commodore Abraham
Whipple.
Whipple, not Tupper. Sorry, I got it mixed up.
It's all right.
Naval skills and courage will ever remain the pride and boast of his country. In the Revolution, he was the first of the seas to hurl defiance at proud Britain, gallantly leading the way to wrest from the mistress of the ocean her scepter, and there to wave the Star-Spangled Banner. He also conducted to the sea the first square-rigged vessel built on the Ohio, opening to commerce resources beyond calculation.
Huh. Born on September 26th. That date has significance with us because that's when we started GodSpeed Ministries, but and died May 27th of 1819. He was 85 years old. So, you know, that's a lot of history on the Ohio River, and you know, there's just so much that's been going on with the rivers. You guys know about the wreck that led out to the Ohio River. Here you look at the serpent mound up here, and you can see the steps going up to it that he talked about before. We got this.
As long as you go up the steps, you're allowed to go up the mound. Do you want to go up there?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I was also taught that this little straight step across the moat was here originally.
Oh, yeah?
Yep.
Yeah, you guys see what he's talking about? So it's like a little land bridge right here going across that dry moat. So the dry moat actually stopped here for a reason. This is how it was designed. This is by original design. It stops right there. He's walking on it. That's the straight part. And then right here, there's the other part of that dry moat that goes around. He said that the measurement was 666 feet. And you've said that you believe that this whole construct was designed pre-Native American, that the Native Americans most likely didn't do this. It was probably people before them.
Well, the Indians didn't know geometry. So how would they have constructed such a geometric figure? You know, up in just 2 hours from here, close to Columbus, there's another mound that has the squared circle. You have a circle and a square with the same perimeter, showing that they knew how to. There's two ways to do square in the circle. You can square the area, or you can square the perimeter and circumference the same. You can make them the same. So they knew these geometric principles and put them in their mounds. So this is not surprising that they did this here. Also, I forgot to mention, at the base of this thing, or about this high up, is 666 feet above sea level.
Really?
Yeah. How did they know that?
Oh man, I wonder if it's still like that to this day. Well, it's got to be, right?
Right about this high up or so.
Yeah, erosion wouldn't have had that much of an effect. I mean, this thing is still, you see how big it is. So yeah, that's kind of scary that we're standing 666 feet above sea level.
In a circle that goes 666 feet around and a 36 foot tall.
So you would assert that this was a ceremonial, for whoever designed it, this certainly was a ceremonial mound. I mean,
there's most likely some people buried in the bottom of it. It's never been fully excavated by design, because the man who ran the Ohio country that settled the first settlement here in Marietta, he's buried just right over there. That's Rufus Putnam.
Yeah.
And we can go see him here in a second. He led the effort to preserve this mound himself.
Okay.
And he's the guy who won the effort to oust the British from Dorchester Heights in Boston, because he borrowed a book from one of Hugh's relatives, by the way, and learned how to build the defense structures needed to secure Dorchester Heights.
Huh.
So it's because of him that the British were ousted from Boston, and it's because of him that we settled Marietta, as he led the Ohio country from Massachusetts to here. And he did that from the first Masonic Lodge in Boston, and created the first Masonic Lodge here at Campus Martius, right down the street here. That's his settlement.
Which he knows my feelings on Freemasons. I've always been against them, and he says they're not as bad as I say, but regardless, that's a conversation for another story or another day. But
what are the chances he measured this and knew this and didn't tell anybody?
Well, if you think about it, the Freemasons...
Because if he would have said 666 to these guys that were living here at the time, that are buried here, they'd have destroyed this in a day. So think about how wise he was not to even say it.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure he was smart enough to have measured it.
And if you think about it, the whole logo for Freemasonry is the compass, you know.
A lot of famous people have been here. Aaron Burr came here.
Who was it?
Aaron Burr came here.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah, we've had presidents and visitors, and I think even Lafayette came here, I believe, when he stopped in at 1824.
It sounds right. 15, 16. I'm counting these steps.
Obviously, the steps weren't here. These were put in by some of the original settlers, I think, or close to it.
Look at how old they are. I counted 45.
They would have kept going up to about this high or so.
Yeah.
And they cut this down to put seats up here and a time capsule.
This is all old stuff, folks. Here's a time capsule, and there's one of these in Parkersburg as well, and I'm going to put it over here so you guys can read it, okay? Beneath this stone is a time capsule placed here in commemoration of the bicentennial celebration of the United States of America by the Marietta Junior Bicentennial Commission. That was back on July 3rd of 1976, and it's to be opened on July 4th, one day later, Independence Day of 2076. So I'm hopeful I'll be alive during that year. I'll be in my 90s, so we'll see. But I might not be, but regardless, that's when that's supposed to be open. Now, get a lay of the land out here now that we're up top, and you can just get a really good view of just how high up we are here.
If you come here on June 21st, which is the solstice, you'll see the sun rise right this direction over here, okay? And it'll aim towards the other two mounds. There's two more large mounds here in Marietta. You can't see them through the trees, but they're not very far away. Now, but if you go down to the corners of those mounds, and you go to the third one, there's one called Sacravia, okay? And it goes down to the river. And on December 21st, the winter solstice, you can stand there and watch the sunset between the two Sacravia, where the mounds used to be. They're no longer there. But it's still marked by a road and a road sign, and you stand right there and you can see where the sun sets. So people go stand there every year to watch the sunset. But they don't care about the sunrise, and most people haven't connected the lines.
Huh.
But they understand the winter solstice anyway.
So if we get time off work, do you want to plan on coming out here on the solstices maybe? And
Yeah, it was about 4 days before Christmas. Yeah, I came out here on the summer solstice once.
Yeah, and was it worth it? I mean, were there other people
Well,
here?
you just see the sunrise right over that direction.
Yeah.
And you just see which way that the sun is, you know, we're not too far from the solstice now, so,
Yeah.
you know, you can kind of see which direction the shadows are going.
Yeah, we're less than 1 month away from the summer solstice. I think
Yeah.
June 21st every year.
Basically points right towards it.
Yeah.
These
Yeah.
were really smart people that built this. It wasn't the Native Americans, because now the Native Americans actually told Rufus Putnam. I want to say his name was Little Turtle, but I could be mistaken. But I think because Little Turtle and a bunch of the Indians would come into Campus Martius when they first built it on a regular basis. They started out as friends here, and Rufus actually asked the Indian chief who built this mound, and he said, "We don't know. They were here when we came." Which is a pretty common answer. I know L.A. Marzulli, the guy that talks about mounds a lot, he's had other Indians say the same thing from their stories in modern day. So that sounds very reasonable, because how would they have built this mathematical structure not knowing any geometry or math, and not even having written language, you know?
The only way they could have is if it was bestowed upon them from someone. I mean, possibly, but
And then they lost it somehow, right?
in essence, if that's what would have happened, then they would essentially be workers for somebody else who had the higher knowledge. And you talked about the people that would have constructed this would be related to people of Greece and India, I believe, who had the same kind of knowledge.
That's where the
back
math
then.
originates, to the best of my understanding. Like squaring the circle came from India, you know, 5,000 or 6,000 years ago.
Yeah.
So they've known how to do that, but that's where it was originally invented. And a lot of that geometry that the Greeks knew, the Greeks got a lot of it from India. So I would assume that whatever culture built this had some common origin with the people of India.
Yeah, I mean, or there was just some widespread ancient civilization that had this kind of knowledge that populated across the planet. And we see stuff like that with the pyramids over the 47th or 8th parallel across the world, you know. And I don't know, there's a lot that meets the eye here, and this is one of the sites that we're literally standing on right now. That's history beyond history. I mean, and we're opening your eyes to it right now because of the knowledge that he's come across, and he's done a lot of work on this stuff. So
yeah, the tropics are set to 47, right? 47 degrees north of the equator and 47 degrees south of the equator. Marietta was founded July 7, 47.
well, I think it's 23 degrees north and south, which if you put
Maybe it's together they're 47?
together,
Okay.
that's 47
That sounds
degrees.
Right. That
Yeah.
sounds right.
Uh-huh.
So there's a 47 tropic zone, 47 degree tropic zone. And Marietta was founded on July 4th, 7-4, I guess. Yeah, so we're backwards, the 4th of July, right? 4-7. By 47 people.
Huh.
By the people that were at the first Masonic Lodge in Boston, who also met there with their eventual enemies, friends turned enemies, friends from the French Revolution, or French and Indian War turned enemy during the Revolutionary War, right? The 47th Regiment of Foot.
Oh, wow.
So you see why it was so important for them to mark the number 47. And there was 47 settlers that founded it here on the 4th of the 7th month.
That stuff isn't accidental. It's,
No.
symbolism is everything to the Masons. And
Right. But if
numbers.
you ask them at the museum, does this mean anything, they'll get mad at you.
Yeah.
They literally get mad at you.
Yeah, oh yeah. And I haven't been up there yet. He has been up there several times, Marietta Museum up here. And
I mean,
also,
obviously not a coincidence, but they can't put it together.
yeah, well, there's some concealing of information that's been going on up there. And we've talked about it a little bit before as far as the plane crashes. And we're going to go ahead and talk about that once we exit this. But I think there's a couple other things once we get down here that Bowe-N-Arrow is going to show you guys, as far as a couple of the tombstones here. Rufus Putnam being one of them, to our right, I believe. So we'll talk about that, and then as we make our exit out of here, we'll kind of hint on what's going on with these plane crashes.
You also had the families of the presidential assassins in this cemetery too.
Now that's pretty huge. I mean, what are the odds that we're close enough to a graveyard that has cemeteries for the assassins of some United States presidents? I mean, you want to talk about history, you've got it right here. I mean, we're walking on the ground. We're walking across the dry moat right now, and all their symbolism of a mound that was created by people in ancient times before the Native Americans. So far as we believe, anyway. It's another look back at the mound. I mean, it's amazing to see. So much history in these graves, all over. All right, so we are here, and I'm going to let him talk about it.
Yeah.
Let me.
Well, this is General Rufus Putnam, first Grand Master of the Grand Lodge. You know, out of the first Bunch of Grapes Tavern, the first Freemasonic Lodge there in Massachusetts, and they built the first Masonic Lodge here in the Northwest Territory. And his father was married to Fuller, who is related to Hugh.
You'll hear
Hugh
that
Squire.
name Fuller a lot as we talk about the story of Hugh Squire, but yeah.
Plenty of Fullers in the cemetery. And over here,
That's a big grave right there. Rufus Putnam. He talked about the history of it and what he meant to this, founding of the city.
now it's interesting that the person who introduced me to Hugh Squire was Ward, and this is Israel Ward right here.
I guess I better come over there. I didn't know there were different names.
This is Israel Ward, and the Ward family, they also built Nahum Ward built the Unitarian Universalist Church down the street.
Oh, it's
Actually using the bricks that were part of the Soccer Via, some of the mounds here in Marietta.
okay. Yeah, you talked about that. And Ward, we have Ward's Market that's down there in Parkersburg at the end of 7th Street across from McDonald's. They run a little vegetable stand down there.
And that'll probably be the same family as Montgomery Ward.
Okay.
Some ancestor of them too.
Hey, what's up, Braden? Thanks for the comment on there. Nice to see you tuning in. We got a couple people on the live stream right now. Nice to see you guys here. But yeah, we're just doing a lot of history here, and we're going to continue to cover these tombstones here early.
These two are interesting, okay? I brought my ghost detector out here, okay? Now look at these names, Ezra Putnam and Lucy Putnam. And look what Lucy says, consort. You notice it's not
we
like,
talked about this.
You notice it's not like they're married, like they're this close together. There's a little bit of distance, right?
Uh-huh.
So consort means like, what does that mean? It means like she was
Mistress.
sort of a mistress, right? There you go, that's the word.
We talked about this, and didn't this come up when you and I first brought out the ghost detector?
When I brought my ghost detector out here, I kid you not, I stood right here and it said wife. So in her mind, this is my opinion here, she still believes she was wife, not consort. That's why they're buried this close.
And maybe it was a relationship that was very close. They just never got married, and she always looked at her,
There you go.
That's what I'm wondering. So yeah, let's focus in on these names again for you guys. This is very important because he came out here with this ghost detector, and yeah, Braden, we'll do that with Ghost Recon. It's a really cool app that Bowe-N-Arrow explained to me. Ghost Radar, yeah. I've got it downloaded on my phone, but Lucy Putnam, consort of Major Ezra Putnam, died July 20th, 1818 at the age of 86, okay? And then Ezra again, Massachusetts Major, 19th Regiment, Continental, TRPS, Revolutionary War, June 8th, 1729 to March 19th of 1811. So that's some serious, serious history right here. And then you can kind of see this right here, dedicated for his military service, Major Ezra Putnam, again dying on 1811. Revolutionary War.
And look how close the Harris family is to Putnam and to the other Fullers that are down past there.
So Harris is another name that's really going to come up here, and it's going to come up in
Hugh's
our
mother's family, yeah. Harrison Fuller.
Yeah, this is a big name in relation to Hugh Squire's story because this is his mother's name. And we talked about the royal blood of Hugh. And Harris, you're going to see this come up in my search for Gretchen Fleming. That's another separate story we got going on here. As we discovered, you're going to find out what we discovered on Harris Street potentially. So right there you got that, okay? So died on 1926. And then we're just out here where there used to be another mound that you said before.
Actually, it was across the street, and there was a perimeter mound in a big giant square covering 54 acres, and the beginning of it would have been somewhere near the beginning of those houses.
Okay. Yep. So where you see these houses stand right now would have been the beginning of that perimeter mounds,
And
basically.
beyond that, there was another one that was about 27 acres, a big surrounding square.
Now, why did they take those down, do you think?
The settlements didn't give a rip.
They just didn't understand, didn't care, and they wanted the area, so
Yeah.
basically. You see
I mean,
that
they
a
had
lot.
contracted, you know, they were Revolutionary War. They got this, some of them for fighting in the Revolution. Some of the land was granted to some of them. Others paid for it, you know, and they're like, hey, we came here to settle. We fought for this land. It's ours now.
Yeah.
You know, so you can kind of see that. There's
Yeah.
like, you know, we got crops to raise. I'm sorry there's a mound here, but, you know, it's ours now.
Sorry, it's ancient history. We don't understand that, but hey.
Fortunately, Rufus Putnam preserved this one and the other two big ones.
Well, when it's a landmark like that, and its obvious significance, even though you don't fully understand it, yeah, I mean, somebody better step up and preserve it for whatever the reason it's there.
Now that name Mills on this big one down here, you see this one? That's pretty important.
There's some German right here, Schramm. Died on 1907. Okay, and what were you going to tell me now?
So Mills, this is the family of the first president of Marietta College. They have the Mills house down where the presidents of the college live in. And Mills is interesting because that's in my book about Hugh also, because Mills is George Bush's friends that took the pictures of George Bush at the kindergarten class on 9/11.
Say that one more time so they can catch it, because I missed it. You said Mills was the president of Marietta College, the first one.
Yes, but the Mills family is also George Bush's friends.
Okay.
And on 9/11, Mills, not this Mills, another Mills, was taking the pictures of George Bush at for the White House, you know, at the kindergarten class on 9/11 as the planes hit the building.
No kidding. Okay, so there's another connection with another last name in relation to this case, and you guys will say, well, why is 9/11 significant in the whole story and scheme of things? Well, that's because we talk about it on another video, but in relation with Hugh Squire, it was where World Trade Center 7, the third building that nobody really knows about, is where, and the Pentagon, is where his patents, the trademarks for his patents were destroyed, basically.
They made a movie about Mills too and turned her into a anti-Nazi propagandist. It's called The Man in the High Castle. Gotta watch that series, The Man in the High Castle, because they had a girl and she called herself Mills, and she was supposedly fighting the Nazi propaganda when George Bush is really the Nazi propaganda. You see how they covered that up in movies?
Yeah, yeah, that's why I stopped watching them, because you can't watch a movie anymore without some kind of hidden references. It's just really bad. But little did we know, you're a little older than me, not much, but little did we know, even back in the 80s and the 90s, most of your movies had these hidden connotations in them. We talked about it with Back to the Future, especially in regard to Hugh Squire's story in life, so. And we're just kind of exploring a little more of this cemetery, and then as we exit it, we'll touch on the plane crashes that have been going on. That's really, really big, important news, and you guys don't know what I'm talking about yet, but we'll get there.
Well, there's Klein's. I think that's the Klein's that are related to our friend Klein.
So this is the last name ending with an S. And yeah, he's got a friend with the last name. His name does not end with the S though, right?
Right.
So I'm not sure if that's direct relation or not. I mean, it could be, because sometimes, you know, names.
Well, he says his family were some of the first settlers here in Ohio, so it makes sense.
Okay.
And look over here, you have General Tupper. I got Tupper and Whipple mixed up, but here's Tupper. The other one was Whipple, but here's Tupper.
Braden, this is the Mound Cemetery in Marietta, right across the Ohio River. Responding to a comment on the video. So yeah, here's Tupper again, General Benjamin Tupper, the Army of the American Revolution, born in, like you said, Massachusetts, and yeah, made his way over here. So I do believe that you're right. The first settlers had to be here, essentially in Marietta, Ohio. On the ground we are standing on is most certainly where the very, very first settlers in Ohio, what is now known as this state of Ohio, came to, because you know the expansion came from the east and it went west, and this really is the most western part of Ohio. I mean, we're in the southwestern corner of the state, right?
No. This is the southeastern part of the state.
I'm sorry, southeastern is what I
It's
meant.
called the Northwest Territory, the 7 states that came from Ohio, Michigan, Indiana, Illinois, Wisconsin, 5 states.
Okay. Yeah. Yep. And I'm from Indiana, so right on the border of the opposite side of the state of Ohio. So yeah, there's a lot of history here, and you're literally looking at it, all these different kind of graves, and that's almost like a little crypt right there. I'm not sure what you'd call it, but it's a box. So much going on out here, and as much as Bowe-N-Arrow knows, you know, there's more that even, I'm sure there's information that even he doesn't know, and he's done a lot of research over the years. But it's nice to get this kind of knowledge, and you can just explore. I mean, for you people who can't make it here.
Now look at the connection in Hugh's family, because this is really important. I already put this on video. Here you have Fuller and Harris together. Right. And then they had an Aunt Isabel, and he grew up on Isabel Street, or lived on Isabel Street at one point. And his Aunt Isabel is the one that stole his inheritance. And here you have all three names in the same place. And this is, I just don't believe for a second that this is coincidence.
Well, if you look at the bottom of this grave, it actually says Harris in big bold letters right here. So all these people, she married into it, so that's his wife. So she became Mary Harris after, so I don't know why they put Fuller like that. It is a little strange that William Harris married into a Fuller, you know.
Oh, maybe one wife died and he married another, see?
Could
Something
be.
like that.
Could be. Or unless that's her middle name, but I don't think that's the case. I think that was her maiden name before it was Harris, so.
Booth, here we go. Presidential assassins.
So he talked about assassins of presidents. Here's one right here.
It's not the
It's
Booth,
not the guy.
but
Okay.
it is the family. Look, Horatio, Booth, and Moore. Now Hugh talks about Booth and Moore. and they were both in the books.
So you
And
see
here they
it.
are together.
Horatio Booth Moore, all in the same name. This is one person. It's not the guy. It's not John Wilkes Booth. It's Horatio Booth Moore.
And you see more Booths and more Moores, and you see that they're connected.
But what I'm confused on, so yeah, here it says Horatio Booth. So what's the Moore have to do with that, though? Well, how is that his name? He's a man.
Hugh's related to some of the Moores, and one of them was one of the drug dealers on one of the properties.
That's the thing that I know a lot of people who watch his videos, they can't get over the fact. They're like, well, how is Hugh related to just seemingly everybody? Because that's the way it makes it sound in
But
his
then
videos.
you see they're all related right here in the cemetery.
I mean, you're looking at it, right? I
Right.
mean, it's here. Horatio Booth. Another one here, Harriet Sauvez Booth. So, yeah. So, I mean, you can't take everything at first glance. You really got to build on your knowledge of the history and stuff.
Captain Nathaniel Saltonstall.
Oh, I'm looking at it the wrong way. Hold on here.
Was first commander at Fort Trumbull during the Revolution. He commanded the Warren frigate and ship Putnam, but was not Commodore of the fleet. Burned at Penobscot.
Lucretia, that's a pretty name. That was my manager at Rallies when I worked there in Indiana. Lucretia Lattimore. I like that name. Okay. Wow, see, you see the history here. So first commander during the Revolution. I mean, isn't that something?
Oh, and I missed up there on the very first, the first stone we looked at there. Gito's up there too, and that's one of the presidential assassins. Let's see.
Where's it at, up here?
Oh, it's all the way back up there.
The obelisk?
No, all the way up near Putnam.
Oh, Rufus Putnam up here? Okay. Let's take another gander out here real quick. So, you said his name was Gito? Or what? Gito.
G-Y-T-E-A-U.
Oh, it's French, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's the other side of that box I was talking about. You can see an enclave or an opening there.
Yeah, he killed Garfield. There we go. He's up here with Ward, I believe.
Another look at that serpent mound right there with the steps going up it. I counted 45 steps. Again, he said the measurements were 666 right there at the bottom of the steps around, and also around this serpent mound. So right there at the bottom of the steps, the 666 measurement is 666 feet above sea level. Here, where you got the land bridge right there, and that pass going all the way around it on the other side of that land bridge, Canadian tourist that was here the last time he had his strings out, literally measured it, and it came out to 666 feet around that dry moat, around that big serpent mound right there. We call it serpent mound, but that's just because if you put them all together, it looks like a serpent of a snake. There are multiple serpent mounds around.
Now he was on Putnam's right here. Okay.
And again, Israel Ward, he talked about that. 50 years the professor and president of Marietta College, okay? So, okay.
Yeah. Jerusha Gito. Now, not this Gito, but Gito killed President Garfield.
So Jerusha
Yeah.
Gito, you're pronouncing it correctly.
So
It's a
how are they
French
all
name.
connected? Well, they are. They're all married together.
And you're literally looking at the actual gravestone again of Rufus Putnam, and there they are. First Grand Master, okay, of the Grand Lodge, the Free and Accepted Masons of Ohio, 1808. So there you literally are seeing history right there. I mean, no other way to put that. I mean,
Right.
now as we're walking around, are there any other graves you want to highlight as we pass through, or do you want to touch on these plane wrecks that we've been talking about? There's another Mason right here. See the logo right there. Man, see, that's one of those old ones where it's kind of hard to read it.
Yeah, remember, there's people here from every single war. This is the oldest part, and then it, you know, it's a little newer. Down around that side, there's other wars and stuff, and all the way to where we came in are the modern wars. So you were talking about the plane wrecks, and we had that, as I was telling Hugh's story at the museum, the Pioneer, you know, Campus Martius Museum about the Pioneers and telling Hugh's connection to the Pioneers. You get a plane wreck at the Pioneer dealer, and the people were coming to pick up the people that that owned the Blennerhassett Museum. And
So
the Blennerhassett Museum is where Aaron Burr went to try to start a revolution against the country. So what are the chances that happens right at the same time?
Pretty unlikely.
Right. And we just had another plane wreck with some kids from Jackson, and I think they wrecked in Columbia, I think. And that's not far from here either, where they came from. And then he was related to Jackson, President Jackson, General Jackson on the $20 bill.
Yeah.
Those are also some of his famous relatives.
So something else that'll make you guys shit your pants, and I don't know if this is a coincidence. It very well could be a coincidence, but I kid you not. The day that happened, the plane wreck at the Pioneer dealership here in Marietta, Ohio, is the very first day that my buddy Shane and I arrived back in Parkersburg.
Interesting.
On a Greyhound bus, so I you know, it's weird. But
Underneath war is Andrews.
yeah, I saw that, and I was going to talk about that, but
So Andrews is pretty important too, because these are Hugh's rapists. Okay, he had some kids and teenagers that were raping him in Osborne's basement. Osborne being the governor of Michigan at one point, and his descendants lived in that home. And Osborne, Ed and Gary Osborne, but there was also Andrews, Anderson, and Darrell Hall. And notice there was a hall right over here too.
Was there? I missed it.
I missed it, yeah, but I meant to mention it.
we usually see these names come up in graves a lot around this area.
Yeah, so there's a hall around here somewhere too.
And Hall is the Darrell Hall of Hall and Oates that raped Hugh when he was 4 years old. Now,
Yeah, Darrell Hall would have been around 12 years old approximately back then.
pretty sick, right?
Right.
A
But they were
12-year-old.
raping and torturing and murdering boys with Osborne in a basement back then.
A 12-year-old raping a 4-year-old, of course, against his consent.
And
because
they
that's
murdered his twin and another, most likely other kids that were strapped there too. Hugh managed to get away.
up in Michigan. What
Yeah.
part of Michigan again?
I
I can't remember the
that
Warren.
would have been
No.
Was that in Sterling Heights, I believe?
Yeah.
I think.
Yep. I've heard of that. Maybe being from Indiana, I kind of know a little bit about Michigan. We kind of lived in the northern half of Indiana, so. Yeah. But yeah, so the significance of those plane wrecks, I mean, you can kind of see, you know, and that's the thing when we do videos with Bowe-N-Arrow is there are a lot of coincidences, and you get to a point where the coincidences just seem unlikely, you know. I mean, it happens a lot.
I think we just proved from this cemetery that these people are definitely related. So it's not hard to see, well, how does he relate to all these famous people? Well, they're related to each other right here in the cemetery, you know. So.
And you can see it on the stones with Rufus Putnam. You see the names on that single gravestone of other people. So you know they're related. I mean, it's right there. You're seeing it.
Good one if I can find it down here.
And there was another plane wreck out here too. I don't know anything about that, but you were telling me it had real significance. And that was just recently, within this past month. maybe a couple weeks ago, right? Out in Ohio, somewhere else in Ohio. But you said you thought it directly related.
Well, those kids came from Jackson and crashed in Columbia, but I can't remember another one right now.
Well, that's the one I was talking about.
Yeah.
There at the time, you said there was something to that, and I can't remember. I'll have to dig into that for you guys and see if there's significance about that plane wreck as well, because
Here we are.
you sure thought there was at that time, and now, for the passage of time, my memory's not exactly the best because I'm split between covering a lot of topics here.
Now look at this. John Cotton and Susan Buckminster, okay? Now, Buckminster Fuller was Hugh's, the inventor. Buckminster Fuller, the guy who invented the geodesic dome, was Hugh's uncle. And he did go see him at the World Fair once with his aunt. And notice how they're related to John Cotton. Oh, from Massachusetts. The judge at the Salem witch trials was Cotton.
Oh,
and
yeah?
these are the same Cottons as the ones from the witch trials, the very same ones.
Judge at the Salem witch trials
In
was this guy right here. And we talked about the Massachusetts because some of these other guys came from there to here before. So they all came together. You know they did. They traveled together. Right there at Plymouth, Massachusetts.
No, this is verified history. This is, look, Reverend John Cotton from the eminent Boston Divine. That's what they're talking about.
Wow.
They're talking about the judge of the Salem witch trials.
There you are. Literal history right in front of your eyes for you guys who are unable to make it here in Marietta, Ohio. Judge of the Salem
Buckminster.
witch trials in Buckminster. Now you see in Buckminster over here is the first name, or I'm sorry, the last name of Susan, the daughter of S.B. Cotton. So, yeah.
So you kind of see where that Buckminster name came from.
Thank you for those of you who are tuned into the channel right now. Appreciate you guys watching. This is one of our longer videos, but there's so much history here. I mean, if you ever get the time, it's nice to sit down and, see what's going on here.
Cutler, Ohio is not far from here.
I've heard of Cutler, Ohio. I didn't know it was that close.
Yeah, it's real close.
Sometimes we just look at names and they stand out because of prior research that they've done.
And here's the Clark house.
So yeah, when he says house, this is all the people that live together.
No, there's a mansion, rather. I mean, there's a mansion down on 4th Street that's owned by this family.
Oh.
Was.
And you can see the way this tombstone is laid out. It's long. It's to signify all 5 of these people that are here in the Clark family that passed away at these times. And you've got Hannah D., daughter of J&L Clark, 26 years old, 1845. You got Melissa, daughter of J&L, died 1851. Esther Ann, died 1880. Lorana, wife of Major John Clark. So these guys have historical importance here from the Revolutionary War, and died in 1858, aged 84 years. And Major John Clark, they put him at the end, a native of where else? Quincy, Massachusetts, right? Settled in Marietta, Ohio, 1796. He died on August 6th, 1851, and he was also 84 years old. So there you see it, from Massachusetts to Ohio, as the early pioneers in the mid-1800s explored westward.
Now this is Returned Jonathan Meigs, the 4th governor of Ohio and the 1st postmaster general of Ohio.
First postmaster general.
Yeah, and he lived just down the road from the Campus Martius for a while. Let's see, is it his house or another one? I think it might be his house that contains original wood in it.
Now, if that isn't the weirdest first name I have ever, that's not a first name, right?
It is. Now, there's a story to it, though, and it's something to do with one of his relatives' ancestors, because he's not the first return. And to this day, they have descendants that still call themselves Return.
Oh, wow.
And it came something like to the effect that they went off to war or something, and the girl wanted him to come back and said, "Return, Jonathan, return."
Oh,
so
yeah.
something to that effect. I don't have it down perfect.
Huh. Oh, wow.
And so that name stuck. And they've been passing it down ever since to this day.
Yeah, here's another Meigs. So you've got Meigs County, Ohio, or Meigs. I don't know how to say that, but it's close by. People that work in Parkersburg are from Meigs County. It's my Hoosier twang coming out a little bit. I think it's pronounced Meigs, like you just said.
And you see General Tupper was married into the Nye family that bought Rufus Putnam's home at Campus Martius and owned it. Their family owned that for about 100 years.
Ichabod Nye. The old story of Ichabod Crane.
There you
That
go.
was probably based on some form of reality and a real person.
And look, now you see Nye is also related to Gito.
So here's Ichabod Nye on this side, 1807 to 1880. And here you got this name again.
Gito, the presidential assassin name.
And that was the assassin of which president?
Well, it's not, this person's not the assassin,
Right.
but it's that name. So
That
I
name.
assume they're probably related. Gito is murdered Garfield.
Oh, okay, President James Garfield.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's one I didn't know about, and people don't really hear about President Garfield being assassinated because it just seems to be forgotten in the realms of history for casual history followers. I didn't know it. You know about Lincoln, you know about Kennedy, but Garfield also was assassinated. This is another big headstone right here. Yeah, and last name is Steele, J. William Steele. But you can see just a casual walk around this cemetery right here at Mound Cemetery in Marietta, Ohio. A lot of these names, they have real significance in the annals of history, and you're seeing it.
Yeah, I mean, our whole country is built on these guys. He was making a really big claim when he says he's related to them, and that's why he's being buried, because it changes so much of the lies all the way down to 9/11
Yeah,
that have happened in this country.
yeah. And we've talked about that in past. Maybe not on videos for you guys, but some of you guys have probably seen, if you fold the dollar bills of the 1, the 5, the 10, the 20, and the 50, how it tells the story of the Twin Towers going down with the plumes of smoke and stuff, and you know, and how the symbolism and how they put things in front of your face, but they don't tell the full story, and they do conceal a lot of it with lies. So really, I mean, with 9/11, Bowe-N-Arrow is asserting that whole thing was really happened because they were destroying the patents of the trademarks for this bottom line band from Hugh Squire in 2 separate buildings. And we've actually seen video evidence recently in one of our Telegram chats that you guys can join. It's called We the People. It's a political group chat on Telegram. I can put the link down below in the description, but where we've seen actual, it's not really a plane that flew into the Pentagon. It was something, it was more like a missile at ground level. Planes cannot fly steadily at ground level the way that the Pentagon was attacked.
There he is. That's what I was looking for.
All right, so he's found another grave. He's going to tell you guys about this on our little walking tour here of Mound Cemetery. All right.
All right, this was the family doctor, Samuel Prescott Hildreth, okay? Prescott, that's George Bush's family. How are they all related? Well, here they are. Oh, and he did go to Boston, Massachusetts in his life, and he had a big, I mean, he was not the first, Jabez True was the first physician. He would have been one of the early physicians, but he had a very huge practice all over this area, took care of all the original settlers. Really important, really important person here.
Yeah, because you've got George, wasn't his middle initial Prescott Bush, or I can't know?
His dad,
Herbert Walker.
Yeah, they're related to Prescott somehow.
There's a Prescott Bush in there, yeah. So it's in that family. I mean, you're seeing
And then
commonalities
you see
with
right
names.
here that Hildreth is also related to Cook, and that's in all over Hugh's story is the Cook family. That's the same, that would probably be the exact same Cook family that stole his patents for his wife. His wife's cousins were Cook, and they had set him up to marry to help steal computer information for Apple computers, because Bill Gates, I'm sorry, Gates was at his wedding, but daggone it. Now the words are suddenly, because I don't talk enough, because enough people don't listen. I can't think of the word. One of the computer people, really important guys.
Could be Paul Allen.
No.
Not Microsoft. Not even close. Okay.
No. Daggone it. This
Steve
bothers me
Jobs?
because I talk about it all the time.
It's not Steve Jobs.
No.
I don't know. Those three are the only ones I...
Anyway, they stole his computer information at the wedding, okay? And that helped make Apple computers. To his
So yeah, they stole his information here, but
Yeah.
to make the Apple computers.
Some of the story is getting fluttered in my brain, and I hate that.
And they
when it
manipulated that somehow when they came out with a logo for Apple. It's literally an eaten part of the apple, which is I think a direct reference to the Garden of Eden and Eve and Adam eating of the forbidden fruit.
But he had Cook follow him around to different plays for years, and Cook was also hired him as a minister and then refused to pay him. And he was a real corrupt guy. Not as a minister, I'm sorry, but as to run a ministry, a magazine, and sell advertising for the magazine. And never paid him, and it helped bankrupt him to keep him from being able to fight what they were doing to him, killing his wives and everything. So he couldn't hire lawyers. So Cook's a real corrupt guy, and they're related to his second wife, cousins of his second wife.
Yeah, and obviously that's not to say everybody with the last name of Cook is bad or descended from it.
Right.
Mean, but
you can see how they're connected to the Bushes. You see.
Right here, you're
Prescott.
looking at this. Mrs. Rhoda Cook.
Now think about this.
Hildreth.
Everybody knows.
Hildreth, yeah.
Everybody knows that George Bush was part of the Skull and Bones, right?
George Bush Sr., yes.
Both of them. Skull and Bones was created by physicians. Dr. Samuel Hildreth. He was the early doctor here.
Huh. Wow. And it's right there on his tombstone. He wanted to be known when he died as a doctor.
Joe Jacobs. The name finally came from me.
Joe Jacobs.
IBM Joe Jacobs.
Oh, IBM.
There we go.
And Apple came from IBM, right?
Well, no. They stole the information at the wedding and gave it to Cook.
Okay. I mean, I'm old enough
right.
to...
Hugh, my brain is... I feel like I'm saying it wrong. I hate that.
There's so much information. You can't get everything.
I cannot hold all of it. I just can't.
Your computer, you're crashing.
It's something like that.
They say humans are smarter than robots, though.
So if I'm getting it a little bit wrong, I apologize. But it's something similar to that.
Yeah.
It's in my book, but I just can't recall thousands and thousands of statistics.
We'll put a link to his book here in the description for you guys interested in really diving into the history of Hugh Squire's story. And there's so much more in there too. It's not just that, but it's almost all related to it. So, yeah.
Now here's Pratt over here. The day that he was raped in 1957 in Osborne's basement, Pratt and Behringer cut off his dad's hands at work and told him if he says anything about his rape that they'd kill him, or he'd kill them all. That's interesting, and there's Pratts here too. I don't know if these Pratts are connected to those Pratts or not.
So yeah, they knew he was going to spill his guts about the whole raping incident, and well, what better way to shut a man up is to cut your hands off and threaten to kill you if you say anything about it. And that might do the trick. I don't know. Pretty sick. You know, some of these Satanists that are out there. That's the kind of people we want to expose.
The way they cut his hands off was they were at work with him and they disabled a machine on purpose and took off the safety.
Oh, no.
Now, he had his hands surgically put back on,
Oh.
and he gained most of his function back.
Just see, that's how these cowards operate, man. They hide. And today, you see it, you know, a lot of the Freemasons or whoever, I think it is, they hide behind fake internet profiles. I mean, you see people doing that all the time to attack, and just because they're cowards. They don't want you to know who they really are.
Dana, one of the first judges in this area, and is related to Emerson. We have Emerson Avenue.
Yeah, we do. Right down Parkersburg there on North End. Now, one thing, when you were talking about Cook, there's also the Cook House. And I think you know where that's at. That's right on Murdoch Avenue as it turns into Grand Central Avenue in Parkersburg.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's right.
And that's part of Parkersburg's historical walking tour. It's on the National Registry of Historic Places. It's this big purple-colored house called the Cook House. I was out there yesterday talking to somebody about it. Almost looks like a shallow grave out here. It's just a patch of dirt, but...
Remember, Bill Gates was at Hugh's wedding, okay? This is the Gates family. The Gates family came in to this country on the Mayflower. They were the original settlers. They've been in every war as generals. This is actually a loyal family to America. Now, even though Bill Gates did recently have an affair, it was proven that, and this was just in the news, I just posted this the other day, it was proven that Bill Gates had no connection to Epstein. But Epstein was trying his darn level best to manipulate him and try to blackmail him.
Okay, so Bill Gates, I thought he was on the flight itinerary that made it out to Epstein Island. Is that not the case now?
I don't know if he was on the plane with them or anything. I'm not sure, but...
Okay. I don't know for a fact on that. I just trying to, like you, I'm trying to go off memory and stuff I've seen. And I don't know. Bill Gates is one of the most hated men in America, but you did at least say that...
But he shouldn't be, because he's probably employed more people in America than just about anybody.
I think it was more about how he was put in his position of power and stuff, and how he keeps pushing the jabs and all that, but...
Yeah. Some people don't like that.
Yeah, I'm totally against it, but...
now I'm just kind of seeing if I missed anything, because that's all I can remember.
Yeah, we haven't really walked on this part of the cemetery. You guys are getting the full tour of Mound Cemetery here in Marietta.
There is Butler over here. Now, if you think about Butler from World War I, who wrote War is a Racket. Butlers have been in the military and in government for a long time too, just like Baker. So you have the Butler and the Bakers, but look who he's related to, Hall, and that's not a coincidence either.
There's so many names that you just see on replay.
Hall's one of the rapists
in a lot of these cemeteries and stuff. And when he says it's not a coincidence, it basically means that a lot of these people are related down the line, and that they're in these social circles, these lineages that are just in turmoil, and and there's a lot of corruption going on through the generations and stuff. And you've got Darrell Hall, and not quite present day now, but back in, gosh, when he was 4 years old, that would have been, what year? You said 1954? No.
57's when he was raped by Hall and Osborne and Long and Wallace.
So 1957, and then you've got, here is
Anderson and Andrews.
Joseph E. Hall, which he died in 1832. So, I mean, these people founded America and explored it as they moved westward. And then I keep seeing the name Rada keep coming up, wife of.
Butler County is where Wright-Patterson Air Force Base is, out near Dayton.
Uh-huh. That is Butler County, isn't it?
Right, because this is the name that goes in government. Notice this cemetery is known for people that have been in wars. Trust me, this guy's related to those Butlers somehow. Distantly or close, I don't know, but he's related.
And we've also got Butler is the name of the college in Indianapolis at Hinkle Fieldhouse, the Butler Bulldogs. Is that connected? I don't know. I'd have to look into that. But Butler is actually one of the really good schools in terms of basketball programs over the years. Seems to be, regardless of what coach they have, they're always pretty good at recruiting talent, just for a mid-major out in Indianapolis there. They're just as competitive as Indiana University anymore. I mean, the last 10 years or so, even 15 years, back in the days of Gordon Hayward. So here's another mound right here. Now, you can tell this is not an ancient mound.
This is not an Indian mound.
It's not a Native American or an ancient created mound. It's a recent construct back in whatever year this person was buried. Noah Wilson, 1867 is when he died. And I'll show you the front of this one right here. So this is definitely not like most of the graves out here. This has some significance to it. And it says Martha Brainerd. Huh, what a name. A Brainerd. I've seen Brainerd before, but still, that's an old name. They're not around here anymore, so far as I know. Let's see here. Offices in the Army of the American Revolution. The latter a member of the Continental Congress. So there you go. That's why this is member of the Continental Congress. So yeah, that's why that one looks different.
There you go.
Okay, let's make our way over here and see what he's found now. So much significance out here. I mean, you could be out here for a full day and not catch it.
This is Daphne Squires.
It's like Hugh Squire, right? And it's spelled the same way, correct?
Spelled different.
Oh, it is spelled different.
But this Squires will probably be the family of the surveyors that came out here. So was it Davison Squires, I think? Am I saying it right? They were the map makers that came out originally and surveyed the area for the government.
Born at the home of Governor Meigs in Marietta, Ohio. Yep. So, yeah,
so I would bet they're that Squire family, probably.
Well, I would say if you're born at the home of the first governor of Ohio, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're pretty important. So, one of the surveyors, basically. Here's Amanda Nash. Isn't that? I mean, there's a lot of Nashes out in Parkersburg. You got the Nash Cemetery.
Nash Street.
Nash Street.
Family.
Yep. See, there's some ancient, well, not ancient, but when you're talking about the first settlers of these towns, these cities, Marietta and Parkersburg, these names keep coming up.
Now you got a lot of wells, like John B. Wells. Now, for example, I have no idea if these wells are connected, but they probably are. I would bet on it. John B. Wells of Coast to Coast, he was calling in and telling his story, and that day they fired John B. Wells off of Coast to Coast. And now all you see John B. Wells, and he's like running a little tiny YouTube channel, okay, without a whole lot of people. And that's because he let Hugh talk on YouTube for 10 seconds or whatever.
Yeah.
It was longer than that, a couple minutes.
Yeah.
So that day they fired John B. Wells from Coast to Coast.
Yeah, of course, and that's why the major podcasters and stuff. I mean, you got Alex Jones, who I still assert is Bill Hicks of CBS News. The late Bill Hicks is really Alex Jones. He won't touch this story, and you got a lot of your podcasters. They won't have anything to do with Hugh Squire. It makes you kind of wonder: is it all bullshit, or is there some legitimacy here? I mean, there's got to be a reason that nobody else is talking about it, right?
And Hugh knows other people from the White family that are part of his story, but I don't want to say that on here.
Okay.
But it is an important part.
And then we're just kind of making our way back toward the exit here. So this is that first obelisk you saw when we walked in about an hour ago.
And that's it, unless you want to continue filming all the way down to the other two mounds.
I mean, we're here. It's not that far, right?
Okay. Well,
Let's show them real quick.
I won't say it's real quick, but
Oh.
we can walk that way or we can drive.
We're on a live stream here, so I'll show you guys where these other two mounds were here. Yeah, let's just walk. Is it about a 4 to 5 minute walk?
The first one is.
Oh, okay. Well, we can drive down there. It's fine.
All right, just don't show my license plate number there. A lot of weirdos out there.
All right. Let me flip the camera back around to me and we'll kind of discuss exactly what's going on. So, all right, so now you see me, and there's a lot of history that we just covered here in Mound Cemetery.
Nathan Hale, maybe? I'm just guessing on that. Nathan Hale family?
Yeah, you see the Hales and the Kales are prevalent around Parkersburg. And my buddy Shane, his last name is Eaton. And we're going to talk to you guys when we cover the Gretchen Fleming story about the significance of the name Eaton. It's going to blow your minds. It's actually really going to blow your minds here. You might not draw the dots and connect them all together as far as what Bowe-N-Arrow is telling you about a lot of these names and how they're connected to Hugh Squire. But in the founding history of these towns, Marietta and Parkersburg, we start covering this Gretchen Fleming story. We come out with that video very, very soon as I finalize things. It's really going to blow your mind.
You see the name of that street, Cutler, right there?
I don't know if you guys can read it, but that's Cutler Street right there. Yeah, what about it?
That guy right there, Ephraim Cutler, is responsible for stopping slavery in the Northwest Territory and in Ohio. And because of that, that's why we don't have slavery in this country eventually. That man's really important right here.
So Ephraim Cutler stopped slavery in the Northwest Territory, and Ohio and Indiana and Michigan were part of the states in the Northwest Territory.
There you go.
So that's very important. Okay. So we're just going to take a little quick drive here. I flipped the camera around so we're not getting any license plate numbers or anything, but
At least in, he had it in, he stopped it in Ohio. Maybe not the whole Northwest Territory, because that was the Northwest Ordinance.
all right.
But the Northwest, just Ohio itself, actually. When it became a state, he was instrumental stopping it.
So it's, I always put my seatbelt on. It's important to always buckle up. It might just be
Real
a
quick
couple
drive to get over here to the other mounds, but it's a little bit of a walk. The second one, the library is built directly on top of it, so that preserves it. And it's a Carnegie library, so there's the history too. You remember Carnegie was the wealthy philanthropist, and he donated money to build libraries all over the country.
Andrew Carnegie, right?
There you go. And his library is right here on top of the mound, one of his many libraries. And I've been in here lots of times. And there's also a records place right across the street from it, so you can come in here and find all kinds of really interesting information. Just the fact that they still have this building in use after all this time.
Right.
Built by an actual Carnegie library, and it's still in active use, and it preserves the mound just by being there. At one point they actually did want to add an elevator like that, and they did an excavation of part of it. This mound, they let people excavate before they built it, and they found all kinds of interesting artifacts inside there. The guy who runs the castle on 4th Street, big mansion that the Clarks used to own that we talked about in the cemetery, that guy, his name is Clark too, but he says he's not related to them, but he works in the same place where the Clarks used to own it. But ironically, he did a lot of the excavation there. Watch the car there.
Oh, yeah. Don't want to rip your door off the hinges here.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we'd have been fine, but clear?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. All right. So let me flip this camera around so you guys can get a good view here. All right. So this is the library here. You see some of our youths out here playing basketball. I always encourage people to play basketball. I mean, it's the most fun sport in my opinion. We're going to try to start a basketball tournament here at the end of September.
Now this is pretty fascinating, okay? There's two things that verify my math from the other mound, okay? Or one thing that verifies the math. When I took those strings and I made a square to find the diameter of the mound, okay? Then I came over here and I took my little circle thing, and you can walk on this one. This one's okay. Down to each corner, the square that this sits on is exactly that same size as the square that I drew with strings over there.
That's not a coincidence.
No.
Can't
So
be.
you could tell they knew the math.
Yeah. And you just get a look at this library, this old library. I mean, man. So let's go over here and take a look at the
I want to say
sign.
it was built in 1900. I think, let's see, I think it says up there.
This is your Washington County Public Library. So it's the
Oh,
oldest one.
1916, okay.
And it's literally right on the site of Mound Cemetery. I mean, I guess it's off the cemetery, but it's on the site of one of the mounds as he's talking about, and it's preserved just because this library is sitting on it. And people don't realize this is one of the mounds. It's connected.
They call all the mounds Hopewell and Adena mounds, but they literally don't know what that is. So they say, well, where did they go and what happened to them and what became it? They don't even know. So they just created a name called Hopewell, and Adena, I think, came before Hopewell, if I remember right.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, supposedly, right? But there's no reason to believe there's any such thing as a Hopewell, you know, or an Adena. They were just the people that were here before the modern Indians or whatever, you know, that were here when the settlers came.
Yeah, they were basically here when the settlers came, the Hopewell and the Adena Native Americans. We call them Indians, really, but yeah. Okay.
So,
and you can see this was built and constructed in 1918.
this is the second of the three mounds. And remember, you see that the light, so you can even see the shadow going back towards the mound there. See which way that it is?
What do you mean?
You can see that the shadow, remember I told you on the solstice, the shadows will point this direction. They basically are now.
Oh, yeah.
Pointing towards this mound and then the third one.
Okay, so the shadows are behind the trees from our direction. So as he's walking toward that tree, the shadow is cast toward where I'm standing.
When the sun comes up on the solstice, it'll be facing that direction.
So it'll be more angled than what it is right now. And it's close. It's close because we're so close to June 21st. This is May 27th right now. You can see but it's not a perfect angle yet, but yeah. So the mound's lined up with how the sun rises on the solstice, both the summer and the winter. Just another look at how old these buildings are, and that's one of the other two mounds that line up. So as the sun rises out of the east directly on June 21st, it comes right over that mound and it goes right to this one and it'll go to the other one. So as we drive, it's going to be just straight past this mound here, and you're going to see it. So now you have an understanding of how the mound system works here in Marietta, Ohio. And we're going to get in here and we're going to finish this video out. Again, we're going to post a link to his book about Hugh Squire. Oh, you're clear. On the description box for you guys. All right. Again, that was an Andrew Carnegie Library in this county, and it was built in 1918. I want to show you guys, I don't know how well you'll see it, but I'll show you some of the neighborhood around here and the houses. You can see how they're all two-story houses. They're all right next to each other. Mission.
You have Montgomery Street up here, and Montgomery's like Montgomery Ward. We already talked about Ward, right? Now you can remember the store that fought Sears? And Montgomery Ward attacked you one time and tried to sue him with like 30 lawyers over like a $200 or $300 bill one time.
Yeah, Montgomery
Just
Ward.
to attack him and try to bankrupt him.
They were founding Sears Company? Or that was John Sears and Roebuck?
Competitors for Sears. Montgomery Ward's was a big store that was a competitor with
That's
Sears.
right, Ward's. They went out of business right when I was like first alive. I do kind of remember that now.
Oh yeah, I remember them going out of business. Yeah.
Do you?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know much about that, but yeah, you're right. Ward's was the first to go down, and now Sears is bankrupt, right? Or do they still have a few of those stores out there?
Slightly past this one here.
You can tell I don't shop anymore.
Sorry, I went a block past this one here. Okay,
You can see how the trees
the
overlap.
last one.
Here's that last mound as he's driving by. See it? See how I talked about he's going to park the car and we're going to get out and walk and show you, but...
This one's really big. It had a Civil War camp here at one time, too.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
All right. Let's get out and flip this around for you guys so you can see this last one.
This one's a little bit taller than that last one.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? Just a little bit. It's actually taller than I am standing here. Top of my head, you can't see because I'm projecting the camera outward, is actually under the top of that hill. So you're looking at about, what, 6 feet in height? Here we are with the 6s again. Yeah. Probably right around that. I mean,
real close, yeah.
It's actually equivalent with the top of your head. Taller.
Yeah. Each one of the mounds and the camp, thousands and thousands of years old, where the troops would mount, you know, this campus martius settlement where they were defending from Indian hostile forces, right? So they call this one Quadranal. The other one they called Capitolia, and that was the original settlers' idea to come up with these fancy names. But quad meaning four, and there's 4 ramps on it, one on each side. These are original.
And it even talks about it on the sign. Well, they reference Hopewell culture again, but they don't really know. It just says that because they thought. But it says constructed circa. Circa means before, right?
Here was Sacravia.
Oh, that's what you're talking about here for the first time. But right now we're on, and it's Sacravia is a Latin term. Okay.
You can't really see it, but there used to be a mound on this side of the road and a mound on the other side of the road, about 30 to 36 feet tall, all the way down to the Muskingum River.
Huh.
And if you stand right in the middle of that road, and they come here every winter solstice to do this, you can watch the sunset right down in the middle of that road there.
Oh, wow.
And so you see the shadows from the other one pointing towards these other 2 mounds. Then you come to this one, and you see it from the summer solstice to the winter solstice right there, and that's the path of the sun.
And of course, the trees won't have these leaves on it that you see draped over the streets right now.
And people believe they didn't have the trees here when they built them. They cut the trees down to help, you know, monitor the sun and
so they could see it better.
All that, right.
Yeah. So yeah, you're looking at the last mound out here, and there are 3 total mounds that we've been on, right?
Yeah, these huge mounds that used to go all the way down to the river. You think 2 walls, 36 feet high, all the way down the river. The brick maker in the 1850s actually sold bricks for some of the places around here, and the Unitarian church that Nahum Ward built uses those bricks. So some of those mounds are still kind of here in the Unitarian church.
Wow.
And that Unitarian church is one of the places where we have Emerson Avenue, that family's connected. Ralph Waldo Emerson, the Unitarian, would preach.
Oh, wow. So you think Emerson Avenue in Parkersburg is related directly to Ralph Waldo Emerson?
And Waldo is also in Hugh's story also. So you see how that's connected too.
A lot of connections at play here, so it's very interesting. So you guys have got a very thorough historical tour of Marietta, or as Mound Cemetery, that you're not going to get really from anybody else, because nobody else has really done this research, at least to my knowledge. There might be somebody out there, I don't know, but there's a lot of history out here, and you got to see it firsthand. So we thank you, Bowe-N-Arrow, for giving us this detailed tour, and I just wonder if these bricks right here were, you know, laid back then.
This is probably from the 1940s, I imagine, because these streets were all brick originally.
Oh, okay.
And some of them still are.
Yeah. We've got some of those.
That's Roosevelt's New Deal, put in the brick streets.
Well, like Trump did when he came in office, it was construction stuff that he wanted to get done, so infrastructure stuff. But yeah, that New Deal was very, very historical significance back then, so FDR's. Yep. All right, well, thank you guys for tuning in. We appreciate it. I know this is a long video, but hopefully you caught parts of it. We thank you guys who tuned in, left some comments, and gave us the thumbs ups. And we'll be back for more. I'm going to put a description to Bowe-N-Arrow's book about the Hugh Squire story and everything that goes into it. And some of that stuff's really going to blow your mind, not just with the connection to names, but also how the moon could be a cube, and that's based off the measurements.
Not literally, symbolically.
Symbolically, not, yeah, you don't look up and see the moon as an actual cube, but, you know, I mean, yeah, we might be living in a matrix, I don't know, but but you're not going to look up and see a cube. So symbolically, and there's a lot of measurements that go into play here, so based off what he did here. So anyway, thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll be back on one of our next videos. We're going to cover the Gretchen Fleming story, so I'm going to do that one alone, and, you know, we're going to put everything we got into that. So thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll see you next time.